Who's joined us. Glad to have you here. My name is Jodi Foxx, and I am the Director of College Counseling at Charlotte Christian School in Charlotte, North Carolina. Glad to have you along for our presentation on making an informed, confident college decision. So before I dive in, let me just say a quick word of prayer, and then we'll get right to it. Father God, thank you so much for each of the people who have joined us tonight and those who will be viewing this in the future. God, I lift up each of the students who are joining us for this presentation. I pray for your guidance and direction in their lives as they seek to find a college where they will thrive. I pray that you would connect them to a place where they will be academically suited, financially suited, but also, God, a place where they will be able to discover more about you. Reach out to all of us, God. Thank you so much for the ways in which you love us. We are so grateful. Pray these things in your son's name. Amen. All right. So let's dive in. I realize that we may have a variety of ages joining us for this program. So just wanted to kind of start out by talking about where everyone is, the different stages of college planning, right? So sophomores or younger, you're just trying to figure out, what are my choices? You're just trying to gain information and see how this all works. Juniors, your main task for this year is to settle on a list of colleges to which you're going to apply. And that task takes a lot of research, takes a lot of effort on your part to determine what types of colleges you're interested in and how to find those types of colleges. But that's your primary task. And then seniors, of course, you've been applying and that's probably wrapped up. And now we're starting to reach that time of year when seniors are receiving admission decisions and they're starting to make decisions about which college am I actually going to choose. The ball is switching into the seniors' court now, right? Where they get to be the ones making the decisions. So most of what I'm going to say through this program is targeted to seniors. I do have a few thoughts in just a sec for some juniors, but I think this is relevant for everyone because you're all eventually going to be a senior, right? So we're all headed this way. And so I think to know what's coming, work with the end in mind, I think can be very helpful. So a word of advice for juniors. First of all, as you're thinking about crafting your list, you want to create options. So consider every possible type of college that you might want to attend and include at least one college from each type on your list. So that might mean an in-state public college, that might mean a private Christian college, that might mean an urban campus, a rural campus, a close to home, a far away. There's all different types of colleges that you might be considering, but think through every type that you might want to choose from and then have at least one of that type on your list. Remember that it's not time to make your final choice. Juniors, that's not your job. You are just trying to decide, do you like college enough to apply? That's it. You can figure out later which college you're actually going to, but you don't need to know that part yet, juniors. So while I'm going to be talking a good bit about how to actually choose a college, I just do want to make it clear that that's a task for seniors, and it doesn't have to be a task for juniors right now. I think sometimes juniors feel pressured, like I have to have a favorite. Not really. In fact, actually, I think the healthier place to begin a senior year is just being open to God and saying, all right, God, show me where you think I would thrive the most, and allow him to dictate things. So I think that if a junior doesn't really have a favorite college yet, that's actually a pretty healthy place to be. But moving on, most of this presentation is going to be geared towards seniors because I'd like to focus on how to make that final choice. You've got some options. How do I know which one to pick? That can be a really tough thing to do. I've had a lot of students say to me over the years, Mrs. Foxx, I want to go to a good college, which just kind of makes me chuckle because then I say, oh, well, I was going to send you to the bad college, but now you said you want the good college. We'll aim for that instead. But I get what they're saying. They're they're trying to tell me that there's some quality in a college that's going to make it a good college, and that's what they're aiming for. And sometimes they mean different things. Sometimes by good college, they mean, I want to go to a college that is nationally ranked in whatever, or I want to go to a college that has a winning football team, or whatever, however it is that they define good. I've learned over the years to try to figure out, what do they mean when they say to me, I want to go to a good college? And I've also learned, let's flip this around. Let's really think about, how do you define good college? And so one of the things that I do with my students a lot, actually, is to reframe that and put my definition of a good college in front of them. So let me show you what that is. This is how I would define going to a good college. A college that provides opportunities for spiritual growth, because of course, we all know that prosperity comes from being connected to God. And so if you want to be prosperous, you have to be connected to God. So a good college, a good anything for that matter, is going to provide opportunities for spiritual growth. Also, a good college is going to provide an education that prepares you for lifelong learning and a future career. I mean, that's one of the main reasons people go to college, is to get the education that they need to launch a career. So clearly, a good college needs to provide you with that. And then I would argue too that a good college will allow your family to be good stewards of their financial resources. You're not going to graduate with an unmanageable amount of debt if you have gone to a good college, in my view. I didn't say you wouldn't graduate with debt, but you wouldn't graduate with an unmanageable amount of debt. I think there's a difference there. So let's hang out on each of those for just a second. So thinking about a college that provides opportunities for spiritual growth, that can look a few different ways. There are a lot of really wonderful, vibrant campus ministries out there that are present on the campus of Christian colleges and secular colleges. And I've had many students who credit a campus ministry with just really fantastic spiritual growth during their college years. So that is one way to tap into opportunities for spiritual growth. Getting connected with a local church is another. And so I think no matter what college you're looking at, you should be researching what campus ministries are available on that campus and what churches are close by. And is there one that is your denomination, the style of worship that you prefer? Is there one that is close by that would suit you? Do you see opportunities to grow spiritually? And honestly, I think as you're making a final choice on a college, if you determine that one of your top contenders really doesn't have the resources, or maybe that one of your top contenders has more resources for spiritual growth than another, I think that can tip the scales for sure. The last little bullet point there that I haven't mentioned yet is talking about Bible instruction in the classroom. Now that's going to be something unique to a Christian college. And that is why some students choose a Christian college, or one factor of it at least, is that they really want to have that Bible instruction. Some students have not attended a Christian school before, and they want to take a Bible class. They want someone to teach them from an intellectual perspective about the Bible. Some students have gone to a Christian school and they've had Bible classes and they like it and they want to keep taking those classes. And so that would be another reason why a student would choose a Christian college. Christian colleges will also have the campus ministries and the local churches nearby. That's going to be true at any college. But Christian colleges are the only ones that are going to offer biblical instruction from a Christian perspective in the classroom. So next up, thinking about providing an education that prepares you for lifelong learning and a future career. So as you're narrowing down which college should I choose, I think you need to look at that list of available majors. That's probably something that you looked at in your junior year, right? You wouldn't have applied to a college if it didn't offer your major. A lot of students are uncertain about what they're going to major in. So if you've got 2, 3, 4 ideas of what you might major in, then you want to attend a college, choose a college that offers all of them if you can, because then that allows you to get on that campus, explore the different majors, and choose the one that you end up deciding is the best fit for you without having to transfer. So that's nice if you can do that. That's an ideal situation. I think you also want to determine if the rigor of instruction is an educational fit. Is this college going to be too rigorous, not rigorous enough, or is it going to be right on that sweet spot? I also mentioned on here an honors program. I think that honors programs can sometimes change the academic experience of a college to the point where now it's a perfect fit because I have this opportunity to be invested in an honors program. I saw that in my own family. My stepdaughter attended a college where she was in an honors program. And that just was so important to her. Primarily the way hers was structured, she did those classes in her first 2 years of college. And every time she told us about what she was learning, it was pretty much the ideas that she was discussing in the honors program because she just loved that so much. So that's something to consider as you're looking for whether a college is an educational fit. And then the last point there, we are thinking about a future career, right? So I think it's important to be doing research on what kind of career counseling resources are available at the top contender colleges that you're settling on. What do they have in place to help you apply to grad school and get into grad school or to get a job after graduation? What resources do they have to help launch you? All colleges have them, but does one college out of another that you're considering, if you've got it down to a couple, does one stand out in their ability to help you with this? If so, then I think that might tip the scales. These are all things that are important as you're considering this investment of going to college. And then speaking of an investment, so I do think that a good college is one that allows your family to be a good steward of their financial resources. Um, Now, the first point that I have here is that it's important to complete the net price calculator, and just it's sharing a story from my own family. So I have two stepchildren, they're twins. So they went to college, of course, at the same time. One chose an in-state public college and one chose a private NACAP member college. Um, we paid the same for each of them. Their cost got to be not exactly the same, within a couple $100, pretty much the same. And that was because all of the scholarships and need-based aid that we were able to secure, it brought the price of both to the same thing. So be careful about looking at the initial price tag of a college and saying, oof, I think that might be too much for me. No, do some research. So this net price calculator that I'm referring to, if you're not familiar with what that is, every college offers one. If you want to do this on any college's website, just go to that college's website. On the homepage, there will be a search function, type in net price calculator, and boom, it will come up. So the net price calculator is something that mom or dad should complete because it's going to ask for some information about income. It's brief. This is not a financial aid form or anything like that. It usually takes maybe 5 minutes to complete this, but it takes some information that you've provided to estimate how much need-based aid you'll qualify for and how much merit-based aid you'll qualify for. And then it estimates the net price that you would pay to send your child to that college. That can be such a huge tool. If you're looking at a college where you're thinking, all right, if I have to pay full sticker price, I don't think we can swing this, but I love this college. Take a look at that net price calculator and see what you would actually pay, because really it may be quite different. You do need to factor in both merit scholarships and need-based aid. And back to our sophomores or juniors that might be watching this, if you have a goal in mind, if you find a college that you really like and you're thinking, I got to make this affordable, do some research on the qualifications to get a merit scholarship, because that helps you set goals for how to qualify for those when the time comes. Now, talking about debt for just a minute, if debt is necessary, I think it's important to ask if it is a manageable amount. Is this an amount of debt that you think after you graduate, with the job that you hope to get, you would be able to pay that off? One tool that I recommend for my students is from CFNC's website. So CFNC stands for College Foundation of North Carolina. So I know that might sound like a tool that's only for North Carolina residents. It's not. It's a tool that someone from any state can use. So the Smart Borrower Calculator, if you just Google that, CFNC Smart Borrower Calculator, it takes you to this tool where you can say, this is the state that I hope to live in. So you can customize it for whatever state you live in. And then this is the career field that I intend to get into. And then it will give you an estimate of, all right, then this is about how much college debt you can afford to reasonably pay off with that particular job in that particular state. That's just a super helpful tool because it's hard to know without something like that. Is this a manageable amount of debt? So that just helps you to be wise in determining, can I handle this amount of debt or not? So I recommend that tool to you. I hope you will find that to be helpful. So moving on, now what? What if I have multiple options that are all good colleges? Now what do I do? I do have students who reach that point where they have carefully considered that definition of a good college. They've thought about this carefully, and they've now got it down to a few, and they're like, well, I mean, really, Miss Fox, the price is comparable. I think that there's a lot that's comparable between these colleges. Going through those three different differentiators about spiritual life, educational fit, and cost, like they're all good options. So now what do I do? And that's when it gets a little tricky, because honestly, that's when it sort of gets into your gut feeling. That's when you start to choose a college based on intangibles that are hard to define. And it's a little tricky to lead someone through how to make that decision besides just saying, pick the one you like better. That doesn't really help a senior who's trying to debate between this one or that one, because honestly, they like both. So let me walk you through a few questions and things to consider if you find yourself in that position where you're trying to decide between multiple colleges that all fit that definition of a good college. So first of all, you got to get your choices down to two. That's step one. So if you find yourself with three or more colleges that have all offered admission, they all look equally good to you, and you just can't choose, then the first thing, you got to take some off the list. And you're looking for reasons to remove colleges so that you can get it down to two. That is step one. And then once you've got it down to two, then it's time to start asking yourself some questions. So, one of those questions, and I think an important question: how did you feel when you were on the campuses of your top contenders? I realize that this is a little bit tricky right now in COVID times when you may not have been able to visit all of your top contenders. If that's the case, if you haven't been able to get on campus, and it's possible to get on campus, I would definitely recommend that you do that. Or even if you were able to visit in the past, but you're trying to now decide between two options, a revisit can be very helpful, because you're trying to pay attention to that gut feeling, and you need to know, how do you feel on this campus. If you are debating between colleges that perhaps don't have in-person visits right now, I get it. It's a challenge that everyone is facing. If you feel that it's safe and you're comfortable traveling at least to the town where the college is located, and you can just kind of, I don't know, feel the vibe of being nearby, even if you're not able to be on campus, even that will be helpful. And if not, use all of the virtual resources that colleges have out there. They do have quite a bit. Try to reach out to people that you might know who are at that college. Reach out to the admissions office and say, can you put me in touch with some people that will help me decide? Every admissions office has some tour guides that are available to talk with prospective students, and I'm sure they would be happy to connect you with someone, with a current student, who can just kind of talk through the culture and the personality of a place. Because really, you're trying to determine, does this place feel like home? And that's difficult to do if you haven't been there. So the more you can know about that culture and just feel yourself within that culture, the better. Now, as far as um, parents go, I had a parent a few years ago. Yeah, his daughter was debating between two colleges, and she was just deadlocked between the two. And I had a meeting with daughter and her dad. And her dad turned to her and said, when we were on such and such campus, I was watching you, and you just seemed to be so at peace. When we were on La La La, other campus, you didn't seem to have the same sense of peace. And I was like, wow, Dad, for the win. Thank you for really observing and studying your child to try to discern, does he or she feel more comfortable at one place versus another? So parents who might be joining us for this, I would encourage you to be studying your kids too, and really watch their reaction to different college communities and how do they do with that. All right, now, if you would, imagine yourself accepting or declining the offer to attend one of your top contenders. How does that feel? I had a student a few years back who had narrowed it down to two. She finally made her decision. She said, all right, I'm going with college A. And the next day she came into me and she said, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't, because it meant telling college B that she wasn't coming. And even though she had reasoned herself into believing that college A was the best, it just killed her to say no to college B. She just couldn't do it. So it ended up not even being so much that she chose college B, it was that she couldn't say no to college B. She just couldn't. It was easier to say no for her to college A than it was to say no to college B. And that's where she went. And she graduates this year and she's had a great experience. So think through, how do you feel about accepting an offer to a college? And how do you feel about declining an offer? Because sometimes that is telling too. A question for you to ponder: is there something you're afraid of? And if so, what is that? I feel like, there's a little fear in our culture right now around COVID, but there's always a little fear about going to college. And maybe fear of just going to college is part of it. Not necessarily which college, but you're just nervous about going. I'll be honest, that was me when I was a high school senior. I was pretty weirded out at the whole idea of leaving my parents, moving to, in my case, I went to college in another state. So moving farther from home, starting completely over and doing it by myself, it made me nervous. And so I needed to really talk through with some people that I trusted the things that I was nervous about. Super helpful to do that. It helped me work through that. But sometimes when people are having a hard time choosing between one college or another, it's because there's something they're afraid of. So ask yourself that question. Am I afraid of something? Should you be afraid of something? Should you not be afraid of something? Think through that. All right, and then kind of the $1,000,000 question here. Who do you want to be or become in your college years? That's a big question. It's not one you can answer quickly. It's one that requires a lot of reflection. But as you think through the college senior version of me, this is who I hope that person is, from an academic perspective, a launching my career perspective, from a financial health perspective, from a Christian perspective. Who do I want to be? What are my priorities? Maybe you say study abroad is important to me. I want to have experienced other cultures, and that is a key part of who I want to be at the end of my college years, someone who's lived abroad. And so then that might tip the scales for a college that has perhaps a more robust study abroad than another. There's a lot of ways you could answer that question. But imagine each of your top contenders. To what extent will they allow you to be that person? That's a big one. That's a big one to ponder. And then finally, we can talk and talk and make our pros and cons list or a spreadsheet or whatever. Talk to everyone we find. What do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? But in the end, really what matters is what God has to say, is seeking his direction. He knows where you're going to thrive the most. So clearly, hearing from him is important. But I think sometimes we're so busy talking to God about this, or talking to other people, but just talk, that we're not listening. You need to just be quiet and be intentional about having quiet time and let God speak to you. So whatever that means for you in terms of creating opportunity for God to speak, where you don't talk so much and God does talk so much, create that for yourself so that you can hear what he's saying. You can't hear his guidance if you don't listen. It's simple, but not always that easy. Sometimes our routines get to be so busy and full that we don't take time to listen to God. Just some helpful resources for you. I love The Next Right Thing. There's a podcast and there's also a book. And the author, Emily P. Freeman, just came out with a guided journal. I haven't seen the guided journal yet. I've listened to many episodes of the podcast, and also the book is well done. A lot of these questions that I just asked you were adapted from a guide that she has from episode 30 of her podcast called Hold One Thing at a Time. I took some of her questions and turned them so that they made sense for college admissions. She's a little more general, and I made that more specific for this particular decision. But her whole mantra, I suppose, is about helping you discover the next right thing to do. She's very good at helping people discern the right decision. So I would encourage you to check out either of those resources because I think they could be helpful. And I also want to make sure I give her credit that my inspiration for the questions I just asked you came from her. Finally, I'll just end with this scripture because I think it's just a great way to keep ourselves focused on the best way to get wisdom for any decision. This comes from Jeremiah, as you can see on the screen. Stand at the crossroads and look, ask for the ancient paths, ask where the good way is, and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. The good college to choose is the one where God directs you. So I hope that you will connect with him and let him direct you. All right, at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And let me just see, I saw a few things in the chat, people saying hello, and I say hello back. Well, listen, it's been great to have everyone join us. Thank you so much for being with us. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I wish you all the best. Thanks so much. Have a great night.